We had someone turn up at the food bank intoxicated and was abusive.
So yeah, so 2013, 2014, then I remember Pete, also within his local area of Earlham and Cadizhead, he opened a local food bank there within the school as well, because obviously we were getting a lot of referrals, a lot of interest. So he managed to open one there as well, which was well received, and he was covering that area as well as Salford. Salford's obviously a very big area. So yeah, I mean, I can remember Pete as well, he was busy, and then he moved to that, and then we just focused more on Manchester, Central, South Manchester, and this side of Manchester really.
We were doing a food bank, but for other food banks, so we'd supply them. So we'd do the Myriad and a few other organisations to make sure they've got enough suppliers to help the people they were helping. Over time, they got other sources of donations from things like Fair Share that were more sustainable than what we could offer. But I noticed that where I was living, in Salford, in Earlham, there was no food bank for quite a way. If you wanted to access it, you'd have to get the bus. And my argument was, if you can't afford food, you can't afford to get the bus. So how are you going to get anything? Because no, they didn't deliver. So I wanted to set the food bank up where I was from. And I managed to do that. It took me less than a week to set it up. I went to a few community meetings, and first community meeting, first day, yeah, I want to help, fantastic news. You come and help me, that's great. Yeah, I've got a big unit you can use for free. People can come there and collect food. Yeah, fantastic, brilliant, mint. Told them about the charity, all that, fantastic. I get a missed call off him the next day in a voicemail, just saying that he couldn't offer me the storage facility anymore. So I rang him to find out why, because he explained to me how he was poor as a kid growing up, often having his tea at his neighbour's house, so he knows what the struggles are like for people growing up now. And he said that because you've got affiliations with a Muslim organisation, he didn't want anything to do with it, because he didn't like Islam. Which was a bit of a shock to me, because it wasn't anything to do with the faith. He wasn't even helping Muslims, not that would have been an issue. He was helping people in his local area, but he still said no. So I thought, right, what can I do? I'll go to the churches. I know they didn't like me last time when I tried to do homeless outreach, but they might help me now. So I went to a church meeting with a few of the different Church of England, like priests, whatever the leaders are called. Said, this is what I want. I need a storage facility. It's not somewhere service users can go. I just want somewhere to store goods. I'll come and collect them. It's literally just somewhere to put the items. That's all I need. And a couple of them said, yeah, that's a really good idea, but we can't help. And the others just said, no, we can't help. There's nothing we can do. We've got other things to pay for. We've got a park to fund. And I highlighted that what you're funding recreation over necessity. Why would you do that? We're asking for a bit of storage. The back of your churches are never full. Do you know, why can't we use just the back little bit? We'll buy a cabinet or something, just put it there. Still nothing. So carried on searching, and I got a phone call from, it was like a nursery, like a playgroup called Little Rascals, and it was in the middle of a council estate. So I went down and they said, yeah, you can use this little office here, this room. It's already got shelves in, you can come and use this. As long as you need it, it's free, we're not going to charge you any rent. Fantastic. So over the next few hours, I filled that little office with food. Over time, I started to get know the girls that were running it, and we created a load of food parcels, and typically they'd last someone about 3 or 4 days, but we'd custom make it. Because what we found was places like Trussell Trust. So yeah, the Trussell Trust organisation, as far as I'm aware, it's still the same, but back then it was, you can have 3 or 4 days supply of food, but you can only have that 3 times within a 6-month period, and that was your limit, which I didn't really understand, because I thought if someone's skint and you can't afford food, you probably can't afford food for more than 3 or 4 days. The fridge might have blew up and they've had to buy a new one, and they don't have any money for 3 or 4 weeks. I didn't run mine like that. Also, we didn't need proof. I didn't need a referral. You didn't need to go to the good job centre. You didn't need to ask someone to prove to me how poor you were. Because I thought, if you're in a situation where you've got to use a food bank, you don't need me probing you with questions. So people used to ring and say, can I refer my children? I was like, what do you mean, just your children? He's like, well, I didn't know if you could refer myself. So I was like, of course you can. I was like, what's happened? Are you okay? And all I'd ask is, how many people live in your house and how long do you need food for? Because that's all that mattered. And yeah, some people could abuse it, but if you're going to abuse a system for 12 quid's worth of shopping, I don't really care if the majority of people using it don't need to go through that justification of how poor they are. So the girls that were running this Little Rascals, they were great. They had a lot of contacts in the community because they were right in the middle of this council estate. So over time they started saying, well, we can give out the food if you want. I was like, yeah, great. So if people turned up and asked for a collection, they could do it. During that time, Mabasha created us some posters and some leaflets, and the leaflets were double-sided, right? And on one side it said, we're running a food bank, we need these sort of foods donated, but you can donate pretty much anything as long as it's not fresh. We need this sort of food donated, and on the other side it says, are you or someone you know in need, and this is how you access the food bank. And the reason why we did it on opposite sides of the same leaflet is because we could display them and people could pick them up without people assuming they're either going to need help or they're going to donate to the cause. So it was trying to reduce that stigma, because you might have them at a playgroup or at a school or at a church or wherever, and you don't want to pick one up in front of people that you know, knowing that you're struggling, which it worked quite well. We did that for a few months. We helped 60, 70 families. But I didn't just do like Earlham and Cadizhead. I'd travel out to Eccles, I'd travel out to Manchester. Literally, if someone rang me and I could drive there, I'd go and do it. We started doing stuff like we had a bit of petty cash and we'd drop off like fresh stuff. So if someone rang me and said, yeah, I need food for a week, I'd go, all right. And I'd buy bread and milk and eggs and stuff like that would perish, that we couldn't store long term. We also asked someone that was a chef to create basic recipes based on the ingredients we'd store. So then if we did give people tins of beans and peas and chickpeas and flour and all those sort of ingredients, they'd be able to make something out of it rather than just eating them out of the tin. It was really good. After about 4 or 5 months, we had someone turn up at the food bank intoxicated and was abusive, and obviously it was a play group, so we couldn't continue that because of the risk to the staff and the risk to the children, so we had to stop, and there was nowhere else we could use as a facility for storage or as a collection point. Oh, I forgot to mention that we had local businesses used as collection points, so we had like a hairdressers, places like that where people could drop off tins and then periodically I'd go and collect it, so it was a really good community effort. But yeah, we had to stop because of that, and there was nowhere else to do it. In the meantime, the churches were contacting me, say, one of the churches, she's called Jean, she was really supportive. She really wanted to go ahead, she really wanted to help the food bank, but the person above her in the church didn't want to. And Jean was pushing it loads and loads and loads, and eventually, after mine had stopped, they carried on pushing it, and she said, I know yours had to stop, but I really think we need a food bank, And eventually, they managed to get one, and it's based from the Trussell Trust, it's under that umbrella, but we have got a food bank now, and Jean made it very clear that if it wasn't for like mine and the other guys pushing the use of a food bank and how important it was, that probably wouldn't have happened.